let me kind of keep going down my little fun game here. Do you think there was a lot of discussion last Sunday on the Sunday shows, including by Chuck Todd, and I'm going to miss him tremendously, in case you can't tell how sarcastic that is, about whether Joe Biden would be on the ballot, whether he would be the Democratic nominee. And the feeling isn't so much that he, maybe doesn't run, but that he can't run. So again, Grace, I'll start with you. Do you think that in 2023 or 2024 would be the likely year that Joe Biden is the nominee of the Democratic Party?
No, I don't. And there's a few reasons why, but I'll start by saying I think when the media decides they don't want him anymore, we'll know. I mean, you both follow the media every day. There's not a lot of subtlety to it anymore. They're working as an arm of the Democrat Party. When they get the talking points that we're done with Joe Biden, we can't really push him over the finish line anymore, we're going to feel it. It's going to be very obvious. And I kind of just think that, you know what I thought was actually really telling and disgusting at the same time was the fact that he wasn't in New York City on September 11th. And that he was in Alaska and he spoke, but he talked about how he had been in New York City on September 12th. And
right.
It really just was. And there's been so many things he's done that are not presidential, but it's kind of like, in my mind at least, and I don't know if Sean, you thought this too, as someone who's been working in a White House before, it was like throwing in the towel. Like they're not even pretending anymore. And then their reasoning for him not being there was, well, people didn't go back to Hawaii 22 years after Pearl Harbor. I mean, I'm just sitting there going, this isn't a White House that thinks it's gonna last. This is a White House that's kind of giving up.
But let me ask you, let me turn that to you, Tim, because this is like your wheelhouse. I think what Grace said, so let's just be straight. He wasn't, for the first time, a U.S. president wasn't at one of the three sites, right? And then their excuse was Pearl Harbor. But furthermore, and Grace brought this up, they lied about him being at Ground Zero on September 12th. And they handed out evidence of him being there like on September, 23rd or something, 24th, which directly contradicts what he said. They didn't say, oh, he misspoke. They literally just sort of tried to pivot. And I think this is interesting, that Grace's take on this, because I wonder if it's, did you throw in the towel and just say, we don't care anymore? Or are you just so used to the media taking whatever you say? And this is where I kind of come down on it. Like, I think that this White House goes, it doesn't matter. We can literally say, this weekend, the president will be on the moon visiting with Martians. And we assume that the press corps will just be like, oh, that's awesome. Tell them, are you bringing a gift? They are so bought into whatever this White House says that they don't question him. They don't stand up to him. They don't hold him accountable. Tim, to your point, the Washington Post doesn't fact check him. They don't have him going after his. I mean, like the press corps, I think, is what is thrown in the towel.
Oh, well, that's for sure. But, the interesting way that this was mediated on Monday night was that the NBC News in particular, that's the one that I had on. And it was like, conservative outlets think this is controversial that he went to Alaska. And then, of course, they show you this very positive sounding 12-second clip of Biden. We'll never forget. And that's just the way everything gets done. So, yes, there's no September 12th in their clip. There's no him making jokes about how I would have liked to have this guy in my high school football team. Like that's appropriate for September 11. These are the sorts of things. Or, by the
way, how his national security spokesman put out a statement praising Saudi Arabia on September 11th. There were 15 hijackers that came in, and I'm like, where's the outrage? I can't, and I know, Grace, you said the word whataboutism, that's the left excuse for not doing their job on the media. But I was thinking to myself, if I had said that, can you imagine? And this isn't just some random assistant press secretary. This is the national security spokesman that is putting out a statement about Saudi Arabia, a country that the president of the United States said, when I'm president, I will treat them like the pariah that they are. And you're praising them on 9/11?
Yeah, not only that, but remember the $6 billion to Iran on 9/11? I mean, yeah, how do those things not dominate the news? Now, the 9/11 story, like on NBC, it's like in minute 12 of the newscast, behind the weather and the embarrassingly escaped convict in Pennsylvania. Biden as a subject is often 10 minutes into the newscast. They don't lead with anything that he's done. So it is, they're always going to clean up after him. It's amazing that 73% of Americans told CNN he's too old, because those clips when he dodders and he says stupid things, or he goes to Vietnam and says, I'm going to go to bed now. They're not shown. You don't see those on ABC or CNN or NBC. They're just scrubbed out, but people see them anyway. Social media has a way of getting those clips out to people.
Yeah, Grace, Tim brought up age. I don't think this is ever going to happen for a million legislative reasons. But would you personally, regardless of the inability, I think, legislatively to make it happen, would you support an age limit for people serving in federal office?
No, because I go back to, I wish we could decide these things with our ballots. I wish people would just look at what we have and use their own two eyes and make a decision as adults that this isn't what we want for our country. And it's like putting another rule in place or another law. There's personal responsibility. Like, we are electing these people. Right. And I understand that once they get to a certain age, they have a certain war chest, they have certain name recognition. It's really hard to get them out of there. But at a certain point, it's up to us. Like, what are we doing? You have Nancy Pelosi, who's running, and I know you're talking more about Joe Biden, but she's running again. She's 83 years old. Like, how? We live in an insane society where we can't look at this and figure it out for ourselves. We need hand-holding when it comes to these people who are being wheeled around at 90 years old. I mean, it's depressing that people just can't figure it out.
Yeah. Tim, would you support?
Look, I don't necessarily support a law, because obviously you can tell the difference between, everybody sees Trump at 77 and says, okay, he's still Trump, but he's way more vigorous than Biden,
right?
Despite them being in fairly close in age. So yes, I think in general, as a voter, we all saw Strom Thurmond. It was like, when are these people going to stop voting for Strom Thurmond? And he was like 100 and in the Senate, and he had a guy at each elbow as he was, skipping along like Mr. Tudball on the Carol Burnett show. But it's that you'd wish that this is where the smoke-filled room would get in,
right?
Where behind the scenes, somebody'd say, he's got to go, he's too old.
But
whether it's Feinstein, whether it's Mitch McConnell McConnell's more likely to be removed than Kevin McCarthy at this point.
Well, if you enjoyed this content, make sure you click the link below to find out more, or you can go to SeanSpicerShow.com to stay up to date on all my content.